Yeah, it's like that old saying, isn't it? Like sometimes one step back to take two forward. Nobody likes to lose money, but I think it's essential at the start. And it doesn't have to even be that you're losing money. It's just setting aside those few hours to really be like, this is my homework for now.
Yeah.
And having those few days where you're going to have a bit more downtime is going to give you that so that you can learn it.
Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast with Katie Bell. I am Katie, and this is the place to learn the strategies, tactics, tools, and mindset needed to build your clinical studio into a business that gives you the time, money, energy, and fulfillment you want and deserve. My team and I work every day with overwhelmed and exhausted clinic owners like you to shift them from a business that is a huge time and energy drain and is not giving them the income they want, to confident clinic owners that are making money, saving money, and getting time back in their lives. So if this sounds like something you want, let's dive in. Ben, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yes, all good. Thanks. Thanks for having me back on.
You are welcome. This is your third time.
It is my third time, you're right. I think
feel-
in the space of 2 years, yeah, 3 times.
I feel like you might be the guest that's come back the most so far.
Yes, come on, get it on the leaderboard. I did say last time that I'm part of the furniture now, but maybe, yes, I'm a little bit more so part of the furniture now, but back three
And I
times.
believe that we're going to record another episode for much later on in the year as well. So I think
Yes.
you're going to be on that leaderboard for a while, Ben, which is good.
Yes. Yeah.
Excited for this conversation. Ben, tell everybody who you are, first of all. I obviously know who you are, but tell our listeners who you are, where you're from.
My name's Ben. I'm from JNAP. We're a clinic management software. So we serve clinics and individual practitioners alike to help them with all of their clinic management and practice management generally.
Fabulous. And Ben, we have chosen a bit of a theme or a topic for this week's episode, which is how can... I think the majority now of clinic owners are using some form of software in some capacity. But I think one of the biggest challenges that we all have is that we're all time poor. And we implement our software and we use it, I would say probably 5 to 10% of probably what it can do. And I think there's a number of reasons for that, but we've decided to dig into that today, haven't we? And really get clinic owners thinking about how much their time is worth and how they can utilize their software to its full capacity, which is going to get you an incredible return on your investment, not from just from your initial outlay then, but the cost savings that you'll see month on month.
Yes, and they tend to snowball as time goes along as well, I think. But yeah, you're right, like people tend to use 5 to 10% of it, and there are many reasons for that. The main one kind of being, I think, knowledge and just having time to actually invest into it. Because when we see people come over, they're often on paper or they're using software that they're not so familiar with. So they're essentially time poor when it comes to software. But if you can really dig into the features that it offers, you can let it snowball from there and you can get a real return on investment rather than looking at it like a financial outlay. But getting over that first barrier, I think, is the first step to learning more so that you can begin to feel that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when I look at like our position in my clinic, it's only because we've got a big team. I've got an ops manager, I've got an ops assistant, I've got a full client care team, that I've got any layers. We use Jane, don't we, Ben?
Yes.
Ben, I am so shit at using Jane. I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. I don't need to know.
Exactly.
But I've got a layer of team that can ask you the questions. And I always say in our meetings, have you asked Jane how we can automate this? Have they got a feature that could do this for us? Because if we ask those questions more, we can utilize the software for what it's great at doing rather than try and figure it all out manually ourselves.
Yeah, I think your team are actually great at doing this as well, like with booking calls and just making sure that they're getting help when they need it as well. So they're quite good, I think, at upscaling their skills to make sure that they're getting the most out of what they've got.
Yeah.
So we always see your team booking calls with us, and that's all it takes. I think you want a software on your side that's going to give you that time as well. Like, I will be honest, not all solutions out there will give you that, but having somebody there to hold your hand through the times, especially at the beginning, I think is really important in the steps to you going live with that software and making sure that you're getting the most out of it from the outset. If you can do that from the outset, then you're not going to see yourself in a position where you're, as we said, time poor, and you're not going to be knowing how to use it, and you're probably doing a lot more manual tasks or using multiple pieces of software. Yeah, I think you're time poor in that sense that from the outset you would need to invest that time so that you can be comfortable with it and get the most out of it.
Absolutely. And like, call it luck or whatever you want to call it, in that position where you've got layers of team, you've got an operations manager, a practice manager, that's what they should be focused on. How do you make your company more operationally efficient? But if you are a sole trader, if you work on your own, that can be a real juggle, can't it? Because I need hours available to implement, move over systems, implement all the stuff, ask the right questions, learn how to do it. But we've got to think about the bigger picture. So whilst ever we might have that short-term pressure and pain in that we've had to say, I'm going to have a day non-clinical, and that day would maybe make me 700 quid of revenue if I was to see X amount of patients in that day, but I'm going to say no to that to spend a day optimizing my customer journey or looking at how the features of the software that I've got can really work for me. That will make you hundreds, if not thousands of pounds in return. So it's like coming out of this clinician mentality into business owner mentality. And that's a hard shift for people to make, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it's like that old saying, isn't it? Like, sometimes one step back to take two forward. Nobody likes to lose money, but I think it's essential at the start. And it doesn't have to even be that you're losing money. It's just setting aside those few hours to really be like, this is my homework for now. And having those few days where you're going to have a bit more downtime is going to give you that so that you can learn it. And if you're moving from a different software company, that kind of stress that most people have at the start of, oh, I've been using this software for 10 years and I need to move all of this data over. What's going to happen to it once I put it in here? And we're very reassuring at that stage with people because we take all the burden of actually importing it for them. But having that downtime to learn it at the start and just to be kind to yourself as well, I think, because it's difficult. It is difficult leap into different softwares when you're so used to using something, or your team might be used to using something for so long. But yeah, I think a couple of days is probably the best course of action for that.
And I think if you are thinking about, if you're in a position where you've got software that is not cutting it for you right now, and you're thinking about having to move to you or other software that better meets your needs, I always come back to, let's just plan when this is going to be the best time for you to do this. There's never a great time in your business. There's never like this opportunity of all the stars have aligned and the planets have aligned and this is when I'm going to do it. But don't chuff and do it in the middle of July when your kids are about to break up from some holidays and you're juggling a million things. Don't do it in your maybe October, November, which is your busiest time in clinic historically. Really think about it strategically. Put the planning in place. Ben, you are, and everybody in Jane are so brilliant at taking all of that burden. But there's always things that you need from the clinic owner. There's always questions. There's always things they need to give you answers for. It's better, I guess, from your perspective, if we're planning it in a timely way, we've got capacity to answer those questions, to really integrate that software into our practice.
Yeah, and this is going to be different for everybody, I think. And it will probably depend on the size of your team and the age of your business as well. Yeah. For some people, they're ready to go straight away if they're just launching. Some people might take a month, 3 months, 6 months. We've even seen a year in some cases that people are planning this for. Important thing is to not build it up too much in your head, because quite often it's just taking the first step. Once you've taken the first step, you'll have a support team on your side to put everything in place to put you those kind of tangible goals in your roadmap, and just making sure that you're on top of those and responding to those when they come up. And that's the best thing to do. Yeah. There's no pressure to do it all at once. And if it does take 3 months for you to slowly transition over to something new, then that's totally fine. Nobody's forcing this in a way that it needs to be. You've got one day to do everything and you need to learn this whole software inside and out, and then you're on your own after it. It's just not like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think thinking about this less as maybe like an upfront laying cost, and start thinking about it more as like a time-saving tool that in the long term is going to allow you to book more clients in your diary and then actually generate more revenue, or even bring on more practitioners that can actually do the bulk of that work, which gifts you time back anyway, is a really important thing to think of when you're making this switch or taking on software for the first time.
We have a saying, I have a saying, which is that a great company is a process-driven company. And even as a sole trader, I'm like, what's your process is? Even if it's, because it's like always in our head, isn't it? As a sole trader, my process is all in there. Like how we go through the customer journey, it's all in my head. I have to do lots of things manually. I have to remember to send the invoice at this point, and I have to add them to my mailing system at this point, and did it, and all these little things. And I'm like, but you don't clearly value your time in the right way if that is how you're currently operating. And most people are in a position where they want more time, they want more freedom as a business owner, and software gives you that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Try and explain that to somebody else as well. Like when you've got something in your head of all these tiny little tasks that you need to do, as soon as you want to bring on help or try and explain it to somebody else as to what your process is, that's really difficult to do if it's not written down anywhere. But I think probably software gives you a framework to work within. As soon as you learn the standard flows of how to use something and how it can then begin working for you rather than you working for it, that's when you're going to see the most return on your actual initial time that you put in that and your financial investment into that as well, because it's going to start generating you more revenue, more clients, like we said before.
What are some of the most common areas? And we can talk about Jane specifically here because the knowledge for you there is there then. But what are the common areas that clinic owners don't use the software for when they could?
I think it's more of the fine-tuned, as I tend to describe them, features, things that kind of work in the background that aren't at the forefront of maybe what it looks like at face value. So for example, most clinic softwares are going to have a diary on it. Everyone knows where that is. Like they'll book their appointments in it, they'll use it for payments. Like they're quite obvious features to see. I think ones that people don't use as often are probably more like the retention tools that are offered in software, which you can really use to your advantage. Like, for example, you can pull up a list of everybody that hasn't rebooked. You can send them notifications through that. You can set up, say, ratings emails to go out so you can start building your Google review kind of portfolio. Those kinds of things where they automatically work in the background or aren't so at the forefront of what you see when you go into a software. Those are the most underutilized things, I would say, where you can really start generating that return on investment that we're talking about.
And do you think that's because people are just not doing it even manually? Or do you think that's because people are doing it manually and haven't ever explored that the software could then do this for them?
It's probably a combination of both. If you don't know that it's there, you're not going to know it's there and you're not going to use it. Sometimes this is why we really plug that we should have a account setup consultation with you at the start when you take on your account with us. That's just going to be like a 45-minute call where we sit down and we say, okay, this is where everything is. We really listen to like how your business is put together, and we say, this is what's on offer here, and this is how you can best pick up your business and drop it in here so that you can get the most out of it. And we find that the people that do take on those calls tend to get the most value out of Jane, at least, because that's what I can speak for, from when they have those calls from the outset. And usually within 2 of those calls, you're up and running and you have somebody, as we said before, like holding your hand through that whole process so that you can alleviate some of that stress at the start of moving over to something new where you might feel like you're on your own. You're never on your own with us.
Yeah, and I would really vouch for that. Your support network is absolutely brilliant. And so retention is a big thing, and that like instantly can, where I always say we are leaving masses of money on the table over here because you haven't got a process in place that ensures that you are retaining well. So that could be we've got a sales issue in terms of how we work with clients. That element needs fixing and needs sorting. It might be that we're too reliant on pay-as-you-go systems and not programs or packages. And then, so that could be an issue. But then we've got all of these patients that are the ones that drop off your list. You don't know why. And then 3 months later, you go, oh, I wonder where Harry went. And I've seen him for ages. You can't possibly keep up with it all in your own head. But you can have return visit reminders set up, can't you, that just happen automatically for you. You can, as you said, print cancellation reports off. We do that weekly. And then we're contacting clients. Any of those that have rang and said, I've got customer appointment tomorrow, I'll ring you back to get rebooked in. They just could disappear off into this world of unknowns. But your reports, good software, can pull those reports and we can then act on it. And that is money that otherwise would have been lost or left on the table.
Yeah, that's how you have to be looking at it, through that kind of lens, I think. Of course, in clinic world, we do need to know when somebody's had enough treatment and they are well again and they're at their optimal health, and we can allow them to come back for maintenance treatments from them. But keeping somebody on track with their care, I think, is really important. I think especially packages and memberships is a big shift in the industry right now to keep people coming back. It's upfront revenue for you, which works really great, but also you've got people knowing what's going to happen next. If we're doing single treatments, it is like you're relying on that person to rebook in order for you to get more revenue out of that person.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on a package or a membership, you're paying up front. So they know that they've prepaid for X number of sessions, or if their membership is a 6-month membership, and then you've said at the end, we will review that at a 3-month or 6-month period, for example, it keeps patients accountable to their own care and to take a little bit more ownership of it, rather than picking up the phone to badger people to rebook, which of course we have to do. Of course we do have to do that. But yeah, having something that can take some of the heavy lifting for you, I think, is really important to implement if you can.
And I think as your business grows, you need to have more transparency, more visibility on your metrics and your numbers. And Jane in particular has a great reporting system where it's going to tell you a lot of what you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got like a full reporting function for different sort of types of metric as well. So it might be patient metrics, appointment metrics, or even billing. Sometimes we show people like a payments report and they're like, oh, I've been doing my taxes every single year, just wading through my bank account. And you mean that this is going to keep track of all the payments that go through? I'm like, yep, it does do that. Yeah. So you can just print this off at the end of the year and then you've got something to submit to HMRC at the end. And they're like, great.
So there's so many ways that you can time save, and therefore, even if you're not making any more money, which you will do, but if you are saving money, then you are essentially making more money because you're able to make more money over less time. I think I would encourage and urge our listeners to think about the software that they've got in their company right now. Is it fit for purpose? And really, I guess, do a time analysis, even on a basic piece of paper written down, of like a 7-day time analysis. And I do this quite often, usually quarterly, which is I write down the list of all the things that I do in the week. So on a Monday, it's like, right, 9 till 9:15, I was doing this. But 9:15 till 9:30, I was doing this. And it's a ball ache and it's boring. But get to the end of the week, and then I can categorize. I spent 9.5 hours on admin, and I spent 10 hours on the podcast. Great. That's my zone of genius. That's where I need to be leaning into more. I was in content delivery for 10 hours. Great. That's my zone of genius. Happy with those. Why am I spending 9.5 hours on admin? What are those admin tasks? How can I delegate and elevate those tasks? How can I get my software to do some of those for me? So that might be their first step then, to analyze where they're spending the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Your software can help you with this as well. Like, it can give you a breakdown. Well, Jane can anyway. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of Jane. It can give you a breakdown of kind of the amount of hours that you've had scheduled in your diary and how much of that has been actually spent seeing patients, so that you can actually recognize where your gaps are, that you can be spending this time and investing this time, or asking questions as to why people aren't booking that spot. Is that best utilized there? Maybe we can move that somewhere else. So just having oversight and insight into the data, I think, is some of the first steps to actually optimizing your time to reclaim it back. Because quite often I think people want to work as much as they can, get as many patients through the door as possible, treat as many people as possible, but then, as we've been saying in this kind of theme on this podcast, they're time poor at that stage. So those kind of processes that they've put into place, there's little wiggle room to actually do anything or change anything because they're so full with patients. Actually taking a step back and delegating your time a little bit more on what's important and what's urgent is really powerful, and your software can do that for you with some of the reporting tools.
I love that idea of it telling you, because one of the things we do in our Evolve program, Ben, which is like the program for people who've been in business like a year, but they're still relatively small. There's nothing wrong with that. They're just new in that business life. And we do a numbers analysis in week 2. And we get super clear on what the numbers are telling us. Now, some of them can utilize their software, but some of them have had to, the last cohort that came through, had to do some things manually. But one of the things that just reminded me was we got them to look at, over an average of 3 months, how many hours were available in their diary for clients to book and how many hours they actually utilized. Because I think the temptation is to make yourself too available and think that that's going to get you more clients, when actually it doesn't, and it's not necessary to be available all the time. But some of them were able to halve their clinical diaries but still make the same amount of money. So in their heads, they've gone from this like, I never have any time, I'm really busy on my diary, because they thought they were clinical 9 till 6 Monday to Friday. And I'm like, but if you were 9 till 6 Monday to Friday, you would be making 8, 9, 10K a month.
Yes.
You're making 4. So we've got a gap. I would guess you're about 50% occupancy on your diary. And lo and behold, the numbers showed us that. And so some of them were able to go, oh, I could just tighten up my working times, be more specific as to how I book people, more efficient. So they made the same amount of money, but over 50% of the time that they were working. And what it allowed them to do then was have dedicated and sort of time to work on their business.
Yes.
And I said, you can't grow your business between client appointments. So if you're 9 till 6, but only 50% occupancy, don't think that 50% you're going to utilize in a really efficient way, because you're definitely not. By the time you've seen a patient, made a cup of tea, wrote the notes up, set your room up, oh, your next patient's here, that 15, 20 minute, 30-minute gap's just fluttered away.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're saying, Ben, isn't it? Jane can tell us this information.
Yeah. So you can see what's been booked on what days and how much actual time you spent in clinic and how much you've actually spent of that seeing patients. If we're looking at these kind of like 20-minute gaps that get lost, it's often, I think, what I tend to recommend is focused time.
Yeah.
You might lose 20 minutes 3 times a day, let's say for easy numbers, 5 days a week, and you've lost 5 hours where you could have been sat down, actually like doing focus time. And those 20 minutes, there's nothing you can do in 20 minutes. But also if you're opening up, like you said, for 9 to 6, 5 days a week, and you're at 50% capacity and it's spotted throughout all of those days, if I was opening that up as a consumer looking for care, I would be like, oh, like this person isn't very busy. I wonder why. If you actually condense the days and you've got 2 or 3 days where you are booked back to back, that can be, I think that can reflect a better impression than having more spots open. And I think often the mindset is if I have the most open, I'm going to get the most bookings, but it can actually do the opposite. So striking a balance with it is really important. I think
that is exactly the case. Like you need to have availability, particularly if you have an online booking system, because you don't want clients to, spend money on Google Ads, then head to your online booking system and then be like, oh, can't get in for weeks. That's not great. But there is a balance of being, hey, I'm just free all the time, booking whenever you want.
Yeah, we do have a tool that helps with this actually. So we call it Make Me Look Busy. So if you did want to offer more availability, you could have the 9 to 6, 5 days a week if you wanted to, but you could say only show 2 or 3 appointments at once and it will show the rest of them as booked. So it's giving you the impression that you are more booked than you are and more in demand than you are. So it's really great, I think, for people starting out, where you might have 2 days available, but you're trying to get your first clients in there. So you might want 1 or 2. So it shows that other people are going, or give that impression as well. So that can help you at the start as well.
Yeah.
So cool. And you can do this on a per practitioner basis as well. So if you're a larger clinic and you've brought on someone new that isn't going to have any clients yet, you can set that on their individual profile as well. So that it's just having that for one person rather than somebody that is booked out back to back. You're obviously not going to want that for them. It's not really too relevant. But yeah, something like that can help with that as well. But I do think striking a balance between having enough availability for people to book, but also recognizing I do need a few hours to myself to invest in operational stuff.
Yeah.
That's the balance I think that a lot of clinic owners do struggle with a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So Ben, can I dig and find out what exciting things Jane have got coming in the next few months? Are you allowed to give me any little ideas yet?
Yes, I can. So we've actually got something launching in the next few weeks. So we're launching Jane Payments terminals. So we're getting integrated card payment terminals so you can begin to take payments in clinic. And that's also going to give you some extra features for online gift cards. For example, they can now add a credit card through their debit or credit card through their intake form. So that you're not having to take that at the time of booking as like a friction step. But instead, you can send the form out and then get them to do that on that after. So we've done a bit of a payments revamp, which of course, when we're discussing in the remit of growth and revenue, these are all extra things that you're going to be able to utilize to get more money running through. But that's what we've got on the horizon. It's literally going to be out in a few weeks. We've just tested that and we're ready to go. So we're waiting to push the button now, which is really exciting.
That is so nice. Yeah.
We will have some other bits coming as well, but my lips are tightly sealed for now. That's the only one that I can give away because we're almost at launch for it. But you'll know, you've used Jane for a number of years, Cody. Like, we're always developing things to make the software better. We don't just contain what we've got. We always try and scale it up as best as we can, and we try and serve the software for the people that use it. So we respond on what people want, and we build things that people want, not what we think people want. We really do listen to feedback and act on it.
Yeah, we do.
So exciting things to come, especially for the UK.
Oh gosh, I'm excited. Ben, for all of our listeners who might be on a piece of software that is not currently serving them, or that they've known about Jane for ages and they just need to have a chat with somebody, how do they reach out to you? How do they get in contact with you?
So you can go to our main website. You can book a demo straight through there. It might be helpful if we could put that in the show notes or something, Kate, if you're happy to do that.
Will. Yeah, sure.
I would say if you are intrigued about Jane, just come and have a demo with us. Somebody, it might even be me, sits on Zoom with you for an hour, and we'll just give you like a tour of the software for the bits that are going to be most relevant to you. So we'll just ask you a few questions about the kinds of things that you're currently struggling with, and we'll be able to optimize that call so that we're showing you what's going to be relevant to you. But yeah, you can give us a call as well in the UK. So we've got a UK number that you can just speak to someone on the phone when you need to, or you can send us an email. So we've got lots of different channels that you can get in touch to just have a chat with someone about your current processes.
Fabulous. Ben, thank you for being here for the third time.
You're most welcome. No, it's always a pleasure to come on and do it.
Oh, thanks, Ben. And we'll see you because I know you're coming back for a fourth episode. Don't know if you know this yet, but you are.
Yes. Yeah, we're in for it.
Thank you for all your support on this podcast and for serving our listeners in such a fabulous way.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. It's always a pleasure.